that kind of area? Because in the video she had a background in design.
Which video do you mean?
This one. There was just like it was like a
oh yeah, an introductory one. Yeah, that's her job. She's with the equality team or the equality officer, I think.
Okay.
So she lives in that space. Like, she has a screen reader, and she is partially sighted, so she can kind of read some things sort of with a right up close and the zoom in. But I guess I'm sure we'll hit record and start chatting, I suppose. And,
we'll get this on tape.
See how we get on. The examples I gave you, well, there's one like point I just wanted to make. My offering could be around, what humans have always known, sort of, and then the science catches up, or the research sort of does it later. So that's the Jimi Hendrix example with the binaural beats. I don't know, it'll take a little bit of time to play both. Not too long, but
that's okay. What I might do for the recording anyway is, if we want to listen to Voodoo Child just for our own sake, and then later I'll edit it in as a separate track.
Gotcha.
So that way, if we're talking over it, it's not going to come out that good on the podcast.
You can't work on it later. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay.
There's a specific part of the song where we could actually fade out and go, okay, or maybe fade into it. It's kind of a specific little bit.
Let me just test the volume quickly on the PC.
Do I need to put these on?
Oh, you can if you want to. If you want to hear your own voice.
Looks better.
Okay, let's see how that's recording. Not very well.
Well, even that slight feed or whatever, I can.
Yeah, like we can just listen to it and then stop and talk about it, and then.
When it gets to the bit, I'll go. Okay.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay. So first off, we can start with that if you want.
Okay.
Okay. But I will get you just to say your name and your preferred title. Just for the recording.
Title.
Yeah, like.
Mr.
Your academic title.
All right. Okay. Right now you want to say that. Okay, sorry. Hello, my name is Mark O'Connor. I work here at UTS as a learning technologist, and I have a background in mechanical engineering, music technology, and teaching.
Cool. All right, do you want to start this with Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah. So is that happening in your headphones?
Can you hear it?
It's not happening in mine. That doesn't matter. It's cool. There we go. Oh yeah. Okay. The bit I want to talk about is... Keep going. This bit. Okay.
Is that it?
That's the bit.
Okay. What am I listening to?
That was Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix. And we need to listen to more Jimi. I just, people aren't playing enough guitars these days. Their guitar center just got closed down in America, I believe, or is closing. Kids aren't buying enough guitars. Listen to Jimi. Go back to the Zenith. And in terms of sonification, all of the human emotion and possibility that are happening in music, Jimi's right there. So it's a good starting point.
Yeah, a good starting point for sonification.
So the bit I just demonstrated there is comparable to the other sound file that you will have already played at this stage.
Yeah, okay. The binaural beats?
Yeah. So we also heard there the binaural beats example. So basically when you have two sounds that are not too far apart, you hear the beats that come between the two, and the frequency of those beats is actually the mathematical you subtract one frequency from the other, and so it's like might be 15 or 20 hertz. That's how many woo 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 you're hearing per minute. I think Jimmy was onto that long ago, before the scientists were. So my point is that, you know, humanity and experience, we've sort of lived all this before, and then sometimes science catches up and writes it down on a piece of paper and becomes a piece of knowledge. And does that then get into the mass consciousness of people? That's the other point I was going to talk about, was knowledge transfer. So that's where sonification could have a huge impact, which so that's a circle to for us to have a yarn around.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Jimmy.
Okay.
So Jimmy was onto this, Binaural Beats.
Yeah, so the little bit that we looked at there in Voodoo Child, it's basically he's hitting the B string, and he's hitting a B on his G string. Not what you're thinking, but yeah, and he's bended up from below on that, and then he's slowly releasing it to make the pitch descend away from the B, so you can kind of hear both, and then he pulverizes it through his wah-wah pedal, which is just delicious filthiness a la electric guitar, which was Jimmy's gift to us. And you know, he's just going there as a color, as an artist, and he's you know, he nothing was off limits to him with his mind and his guitar, but it was a funky thing that I think he tapped into, and you know, and made a big part of it's on line 3 of his epic song Voodoo Child. So yeah, there's not much more to talk about than that. But I guess the whole area of sonification is using your ears, because it's such a powerful sense. Developmentally, the human race, we heard our predators before we saw them. So to that end, the human ear has become such a more developed sense. Also, the shape of the human ear is such that the frequency of, usually around the cry of a baby, is actually the most audible thing to our, I should have looked up my music technology notes before coming in, the perceived hearing. So there's a graph of, if you look it up, phones and zones, whereby around 4K there's the lowest dip of that. So that's basically, that sound doesn't need to be as loud for you to hear it. So if your baby's crying in the next room, you'll care and get up and help the human race continue.
So what you're saying is, like, we're, I guess, evolutionarily more developed to distinguish between sounds than we are in terms of sight.
I'm going to say that. I'm in that camp. Now, other people might have different opinions. I'm a musician, so, you know, I've developed that way.
So you can't hear anything?
What?
So you can't hear anything?
What do you mean? All right. Good one. But no, I've not spent too long in the practice room for that to be a problem. But yeah, the piece. The reason I'm here is the piece I did on the blog, the Futures blog, which is part of the Institute for Interactive Media and Learning. Plug for my employer there. So we all have to write blog posts. So I chose sonification because it's fascinating. Normally, you know, you can look at a chart of graphs of numbers, and that gets boring very quickly. We can look at a beautifully visualized piece of data, which is very common in our world today. But sonification is where we use our ears to understand the data. And yeah, the pieces I chose in my blog post, Mark Temple's piece around the sonification of DNA data and how mutations can be outlined quite easily. You can hear that. There's examples there. You could even give one, play one there. But that demonstrates how, you know, patterns can be so easily identified. So there's elements of psychoacoustics coming in there, and Gestalt psychology. You can perceive discontinuities in sounds. So I think evolutionarily our ears are equipped to do great things. So it's about us as technologists and as data analysts and scientists to maybe understand how we can unlock that. And then there's the more fun article by Tantacruel. He's got a YouTube page there, folks. Check it out. Tantacrool. He's a friend of mine from Limerick in Ireland. We were both musicians back in the day, but he has now concentrated his talents around becoming a YouTuber. He's having moderate hits, but he's done a fascinating piece around sonification and where it all might go, and where the regrettable uses of it, whereby people portray this a piece and claim that this is what the sun sounds like, when the sound of the sun can't actually travel through the vacuum between here and there, so there's no way you actually could have measured it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. If we're kind of picking arbitrary boundaries and then using our own taste to choose a sound that represents it, what value is there?
Well, I think with a lot of music technology stuff and art music, you kind of have to read the encyclopedia of how it was created to fully get it and understand it. Personally, electronic art music, a lot of it is, because it's made from that place, it sounds like crap. But I do respect the artistic ideas behind it. But you have to kind of know what those are. Otherwise, you're listening to this thing and it does sound like crap. More often than not. I'm being unfair, but you know what I mean.
You are talking to a community radio station. We're pretty into electronic music.
No, I'm not talking about electronic music. I'm talking about, we'll say, sonic art. So a lot of that stuff, it was what rocked my world when I did my MA in music technology. It was like, that's not music. And then you have to widen your definition of what you think music is. And okay, it is music, but I'm still going to put on Jimmy. But you know, what you like what you like, and some people like that stuff, so that's cool. But sonification does have great potential as long as people understand what they're hearing. So there is this grey area there at the moment where people are being played sounds and are, you know, the media are happy to run with the cuddliest story when it's not actually the truth, and it's actually getting away from trying to reveal the scientific things that are going on. Folks, if you watch the Tantric Rule video, you'll know more about what the hell I'm talking about.
Could you give an example of a data sonification project that does have scientific value as opposed to sonic art?
Yeah, well, I work for IML here at UTS, but I'm also deployed in the Faculty of Health. So in health, data analytics and health analytics is a huge growing area, and I think things are slowly getting into that space here in Australia. The digital medical records, the clipboard at the end of your bed that all the different doctors, nurses, health professionals come and visit and write down your data over the days, and that becomes a pattern, and they can tell whether you're still sick or not, and you can get up and get out of the bed or not. That's going to transfer into the digital domain. I think Macquarie Hospital is already paperless, and I think America's way ahead in this space. But once that all gets turned into ones and zeros, and it is a big challenge. Like you've a lot of old methods that are well trusted and well used, and they work. So to transfer out of that system into a new paperless system is a huge change. But once we get there, then the potential of data analysis opens up. So you could look at the city of Sydney and listen to the soundscape and realize, okay, in Bondi there's a higher percentage of alcohol-related injuries. in other areas there could be higher percentages of cancer. You know, maybe there's already ways of detecting those things, but I think maybe you know, sonification's already here. You know, when you're waiting at the red light to cross the road, you wait until you hear your sound and then you're off. Similarly, your pulse, you hear that sound. I think the reactive properties of the ear is possibly where sonification might have the most potential.
So you mean otherwise, like picking up something out of pattern? Alerts,
yeah, things like that, because otherwise the difference between visualization, you can kind of look at something and maybe get it in the first 10 seconds, whereas necessarily sound takes time to listen to. So it's still a space to be explored, and you know, to be honest, I'm only looking at it. It's early days for my look at it as well, but as a musician, I feel like I've got maybe head starts in some areas. So I sort of mentioned that in my blog as well. You know, people that are used to, like, you're in front of a set of faders there, and you balance sounds, and or people that make albums, as I've done with lots of artists over the years, you know, mixing those sounds and making a meaningful whole out of it all, I think a lot of those rules are going to transfer quite readily over into the data sonification space. And then we're into, like Dark Side of the Moon is the example I gave. There's so much in that album. There's, I don't know, I was drunk, wasn't really sure, I was drunk at the time. You know, all this weird spoken word stuff spliced in over the electronic stuff that they were innovating with, and there's just really good band and really good lyrics, and Roger Waters coming into his poetic coming of age, and there's so much to dig in all of that, you know. So how do you make, you know, that's just a musical perfection that we've got to. How could we make data sonification be as, I don't know, palatable or interesting? Yeah. I think other people would probably say that's absolutely not the role, and, you know, you got to let the data stay as true to its own source as possible for, yeah. But you got to make it...
What would that involve?
Well, you know, Mark Temple's piece, Mark is a lecturer there in Western Sydney University and drummer with the Hummingbirds, and a good pal of mine. He basically has... I've gone blank, sorry. What was your question?
What would that look like, the more, like, accurate?
So, cut out that last bit.
Okay.
So, yeah, Mark Temple, in his examples, he assigns different sounds to different parts of the DNA, so that, as well as being different pitches, you also have different timbres or instruments coming in. So, that's just, that's a simple way to maybe achieve some of that.
Yeah, I've got it here. Do you want to listen to it?
Yeah, let's do that. So even in that, you can hear a percussive sound, you can hear...
Say that again?
So in that, you can hear a percussive sound, a string sound, a kind of an organy sound. You know, they're MIDI instruments or whatever, so he assigned each to their own, just to help the listener discern better.
Yeah,
I don't think it's changing. It's not changing the meaning of what we're trying to hear and trying to understand, so it's good use of it.
But you can hear that kind of glitch bit. Let me see if I can... And so that's the mutation.
Yeah, that's the discontinuity, and it's nice and obvious, and so that's a good example. Like that's a way to maybe accentuate the differences so that we notice them right in the real time, you know. So that's the way we could do it.
Tell me a bit about your background as a musician. How did that translate into being interested in data sonification?
I mean, in the MIDI world, which I don't really go there very often, but, you know, that's all just ones and zeros. You turn your keyboard into 100 and however many keys it is, and you assign, instead of picking a key with your finger, you assign a value to a note, and then you assign a value to its duration, its loudness, maybe a bit of a glissando or a onset, offset, and you effectively, you're just massaging some numbers around it, probably taking away a lot of the art. I get nervous when music stops using plectrums. So here's a plectrum. It's got it's plastic, it's got lots of properties to it, and you can do lots of things to the strings with it. And if you go up with the plectrum, like Television do in Marquee Moon, and I didn't realize it until I saw them in the Enmore do it, I was like, oh my god, it's the upstroke. That's everything. I should have known that. But there's so much subtlety that you get in the analog world, whereas some of the digital things, you lose that. So that's kind of, again, we're getting back to the music production and what that could offer, sonification. There's a whole world you can get out of this plectrum, and Jimmy gets it, and I get it, but it's harder to maybe turn the ones and zeros into this.
Right. Do you think data sonification can get it?
I think, I mean, you know, we all watch Game of Thrones, so there's a few shots of the dragons that don't quite cook it. But did you see episode 3 recently?
You know, I live under a rock. I stopped watching in season 4.
Fair enough. I mean, if you go back and look at Jurassic Park, we all laugh at it now. Oh my god! But at the time, we thought that was amazing. So, I think, the the design world's ability to mimic the analog is obviously at the races. Final thought from me is to all you college kids out there listening and everyone else, that this whole area of we're educating people for careers that don't exist yet. Like, things are speeding up more and more as we go, or unless Trump and North Korea have anything else to think about, things might go backwards a little bit. But yeah, I guess everyone who's in a music technology course, for instance, could end up in data sonification, and of course here at UTS the transdisciplinary things that they're looking at seems to be barking up the right tree to end that on an analog note. I want to say one more thing. I finish here at UTS next Saturday, regrettably, because my 457 visa runs out.
Oh.
I've been you can choose to edit this in or out or not, or maybe is it in a different program, or if you get into that
I'm
topic.
I'm going to wait and hear what you're going to say.
Yeah, no, Australia does all these changes to the rules for people that are visiting here that is really not making it fun, and doesn't feel to me the things I love about Australia. Australia has been in my life since I watched TV growing up, all along, Skippy and the Sullivans and Country Practice, and so actually finally getting here was great. And so I've been here for 4 years. I worked at Western Sydney and UTS, but just the changes that came in this year, and they're talking about voting on making it harder to become an Australian citizen, and a lot of those decisions and rules they're putting in place there are really erroneous. So I've been living here 4 years and I don't have a vote. Now they're going to put in a measure that means that someone like me, if I transferred to permanent residency, which was my hope, but someone like that would have to wait another 4 years before becoming an Australian citizen. And there was a senator on the floor of the Senate made a good speech today. I think his name is Matthew Burke. It's definitely Burke anyway. And he's saying that in Australia's interests, it's to basically isolate a cohort of people and make them feel less welcome and less participatory is not in your best interests. It's being sold to the Australian public that it's like an anti-tourism thing, but all you're going to do is just make people feel more isolated. I don't have any tourist tendencies myself. I love living here in Sydney, but regrettably that has to end soon.
That's a shame.
Yeah, so that's a thing to have a look at there.
Yeah. I did have one question for you that perhaps won't make the broadcast, but why are so many people involved in data sonification Irish?
That's because we've better bird singers than you guys do. No, well, you could expand that to why are we such good musicians. I've thought on that very much. In Australia, like I really do mean the birds are always there in the trees in Ireland. You have blackbirds in Launceston, because when I heard one, I fell off my horse. I was like, holy shit, it's a blackbird. Great. And then I just stood transfixed and listened to it for a good while. You have them in Melbourne as well. But I really do think that is a form of synaptic programming that we've always enjoyed in Ireland. And I think, maybe we're ahead of the game in that as well. Pick an area, gay marriage, rugby. Who knows? But no, obviously we were lagging behind in lots of ways for long enough. But why are we better at data sonification? Maybe it's just me and Martin who are at the race. No.
I don't know. You sent me the video of Evelyn as well, and
she's Scottish.
Oh.
Evelyn Glennie, fascinating woman. She's completely deaf, but she lost her hearing, I think, in her early teens. So when you're a baby and you grow, you develop your brain, and so those skills or the synapses get joined up, to very oversimplify it. But so the capability is there, but she uses her body. Like, your ears are just essentially your eardrums, and you're well designed. The shape of your cartilage funnel the sound into that thing, and that goes into our brains. But we were the rest of her whole body to perceive sound. So she was able to train her body to perceive pitch to the accuracy of semitones. So when she hits things, she can almost close her eyes and know that she's right, you know, and she can. So that example this is a good resolution. The example at the start I showed, the binaural beats, when frequencies are right beside each other, you can discern that. So, e.g., 440 minus 460 is going to make a 40 hertz beat difference. Once it gets to a minor third, it becomes a harmonious thing, and you don't hear the beats anymore, or even a second. But yeah, okay, I'm getting lost in nerdy land here. But yeah, okay, your question. Why are Irish people better at sonification and or music? Yeah, it's definitely because of the blackbirds and the thrushes and the wrens and the robins and the starlings and the nightingales and whatever else lives in Ireland, I guess.
Thank you.
But shout out to your magpies. That was the first bird song I heard in Australia when I came here, and I heard it at my sister's window, and I was like, holy crap, it's a country practice bird. Did you ever watch Country Practice? But it was basically, yeah, that sound of. So our magpies can't sing, but yours can.
Have you been swooped by one?
I have. They scared the shit out of me. I came back from Ireland once on a plane, obviously, and I had to go into work straight away. So I was really jet lagged, and I was cycling through my usual route, and this goddamn magpie swooped on me, and absolutely freaked me out. My last drop of adrenaline just sort of was spent, and I was just shivering mess. No, don't hit me. And I never went that way again, which was probably what he intended.
Yep. All right. Was there anything else about data sonification? Yeah. So I'll stop.
Let me have a look at the list I sent.
I think we've kind of covered everything. I guess, maybe want to talk a bit more about like
knowledge transfer is just one other area. Yeah, things we could sonify. So. Yeah, let's very quickly about knowledge transfer. So we're surrounded by buildings here at UTS, and in those buildings we have academics. Some of them teach the students, and that is a form of knowledge transfer, a very important one. But another really important one is the research centers that are here. So they all work on research projects and think and really do, analytical work to understand whatever it is they're trying to understand. So once that gets published and is proven, what happens to that knowledge? So there is a gap between it becoming a valued piece of knowledge and actually benefiting. So, if it's a piece of health research, how does that knowledge benefit the person in the bed that needs it? And there's like an average timeline between the idea happening and it benefiting the patient. Sometimes that can be up to 15 years. And I, as a learning technologist, look at that space and go, surely that can be sped up. Surely, if we're educating kids for careers that don't exist yet, surely, that number can be brought down as well. So sonification of data, I think if it becomes a thing that we can all get on top of, I mean, we all will swipe our phones over a QR code, no problem now. I think if we develop a similar vocabulary in data sonification, a lot of that transfer of knowledge could happen through that channel.
Yeah, and what can be sonified?
Potentially everything. Tanta Cruel's example of turning the footsie graph into a I understand this. Maybe that's where it could end up. I think our brains are an ever-evolving organ that, I don't know though, everyone's looking into their mobile devices on the train, so I don't know if we devolved a little bit. We need to get back to Jimmy and the plectrum, I think. Okay, the oral tradition, which the Aboriginals were doing it for tens of thousands of years before we shut up, so...
right, all knowledge sonified through songs.
Yeah, and stories and walkabouts and
like the song lines that map out the country.
Yeah, re-embedding the knowledge through family links and country So should have done this to start, but shout out to the Gadigal Nation, Eora Nation. Let me do that again.
Okay.
Shout out to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, on whose lands we are chatting and having a yarn.
Lovely.
All right.
I will stop it there.
Thanks a million.
Thanks so much. Yeah, wow. I feel really bad I did not pick up Evelyn is Scottish. I lived there for a year. I'm completely slipping.
I hope she's Scottish. I'm pretty sure she is. Yeah, she is, definitely. There's someone else that's, I think, is Scottish but isn't. And there's someone who I think is English and is Scottish. That's Peter Scott. You should have got it by the name.
Here we go.
So how do we pronounce your name? Is it
Shane?
Shane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting spelling.
Yep.
Is it from anywhere?
Nope.
They had income.
My mum really likes Native American culture and history, so it's from Cheyenne.
Oh, yes.
But she had the wonderful foresight not to culturally appropriate a Native American tribe. Hi, Mum.
Hi. So, shout out from Shane and Mark in the wonderful 2SER studio. Goodbye.
Bye.